The station that's on your side. This is News 12, NBC 26 at 11.
Tonight, 2 mass shootings in the U.S. in 2 different time zones. 10 lives lost in California and a dozen shot in Louisiana. In Los Angeles, officers spent most of the day searching for the gunman behind their tragedy. And in Baton Rouge, officers are looking for a suspect and a motive that left several in critical condition. We'll hear more about their developments later on. But first things first, we're going to toss things over back here on the East Coast to First Alert meteorologist Anthony Carpino. How's it looking?
4 degrees. More on Monday's forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Craig, back to you.
Well, authorities have confirmed the suspect in the mass shooting who killed 10 people and injured 10 others at a Southern California dance hall is dead. They say a 72-year-old Asian man died by suicide inside a white van miles from the scene. CBS News correspondent Danya Bacchus is in Monterey Park with the latest.
As Monterey Park mourns the mass shooting at a dance hall that left 5 men and 5 women dead on the scene, SWAT teams zeroed in on this white van about 30 miles south of the crime scene. Authorities confirmed that the suspect is dead after he apparently shot and killed himself inside the van.
During the search, several pieces of evidence were found inside the van, linking the suspect to both locations in Monterey Park and Alhambra.
Earlier, law enforcement said the gunman who opened fire at the Star Dance studio may have tried and failed to unleash more deadly violence at a second dance hall in nearby Alhambra.
This could have been much worse. The weapon that we recovered at that second scene, I'm describing as a magazine-fed, semi-automatic assault pistol.
There are a lot of unanswered questions for investigators. The FBI, local sheriff's department, and Monterey Park police remain at the scene of the shooting. This community of about 60,000 east of Los Angeles is comprised mostly of people of Asian descent.
To hear about this was just absolutely shattering, especially in our peaceful community, which I believe is so resilient and which appreciates its diversity.
I'll never be able to feel safe here again.
Now, instead of celebrating the Chinese Year of the Rabbit, residents here are searching for answers. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Monterey Park, California.
Their children with love. And officers say they are still searching for a motive and no other suspects are at large. Other authorities say 2 members of the community disarmed the suspect at the second location in Alhambra, and they are being hailed as heroes. Over to Baton Rouge, the police department there in Louisiana is investigating a mass shooting as well that left 12 people injured earlier this morning. Officers say it happened at a bar and lounge around 1:30 a.m. Central Time. Officers believe most of the victims were possibly in their 20s. Detectives confirmed 9 of the victims suffered life-threatening injuries, and one police chief says there were actually 3 police officers standing in the parking lot when it all happened, responding immediately to the threat. But those officers couldn't spot the shooter because so many people were running out of the club as they tried to get in. So the chief says he's grateful for their response.
Those police officers immediately responded to the threat, and we believe their immediate response prevented further injuries. The officers were able to quickly secure the scene as well as administer life-saving aid.
There are still no suspects at this time, but officers are following up on several leads and surveillance footage from the business, also saying the owner is fully cooperating with their investigators. A woman is dead after a car crash in Beach Island on Saturday night. South Carolina troopers say it happened just before 9 p.m. on Jefferson Davis Highway near Cherokee Drive. They say a Toyota was driving down the road and hit her as she crossed the road, dying from her injuries. No one in the car was hurt, but the coroner's office says her name will not be released until her family has been notified. Meanwhile, another fire truck flipped over last night in South Augusta. The Augusta Fire Department says the accident happened before 9:30 p.m. on Neely and Old Waynesboro Road. Say 2 trucks were rushing to a first responder call when the Tender 12 truck moved off the left side of the road and flipped over. The driver was then taken to AAU for evaluation and later released. Richmond County deputies are asking you to keep an eye out for this man wanted in connection to a shooting earlier today. Deputies say shots were fired at Butgell Inn and Suites off of 5th Street around 1 a.m. When they got there, they found out a woman had been shot and took herself to the hospital for treatment. She told them 65-year-old Daryl Gathers shot her, and anyone who's seen a 5'11" man driving a black Mazda should call the sheriff's office to speak to an investigator. Then over to Grovetown, officers there need help finding a runaway teen. They say 14-year-old Malaysia Sumter was last seen Friday night wearing a black dress, tights, and shoes. They believe she's in the area around the Deer Hollow subdivision. Anyone with information on her whereabouts can call the police department as well. Up next, Richmond County Jewish leaders are taking steps to educate the community while celebrating an achievement. See how after the break.
It's the light of the party.
Join News 12, NBC 26, and the American Heart Association Friday, February 10th for the 2023 CSRA Heart Ball.
We're returning to the ballroom and reigniting our passion for saving and improving lives in the CSRA.
Celebrate the impact we're making in the fight against our #1 killer, heart disease.
Together, we can be a relentless force for building longer, healthier lives in the CSRA.
Reserve your seats today at csraheartball.heart.org.
History can be written or retold, but sometimes it's right in front of your eyes. Today, Augusta Jewish Museum dedicated 2 historical markers donated by the Reverend Pierre Robert Chapter of Colonial Dame's 17th century, one for the Richmond County Court of Ordinary and the other Georgia's oldest standing synagogue. Our Sydney Hood stopped by earlier today to check in with the celebration. Sydney, what does this dedication mean to Augusta and the Jewish community?
Well, it's like you said, one of the oldest standing synagogues in Georgia is right here in Augusta. It's more than 150 years old, and the history behind the building is what brought out more than 50 people today. For them, it's all about preserving history and educating generations to come.
Ask anyone here what 2 bronze markers mean to them.
To me, it's having saved these buildings, which they should have been.
You'll get the same answer each time.
There's a lot of history, and it's a personal mission of mine to do what I can to preserve the building.
2 buildings almost taken away.
Think of this, they would have become a 12-space parking lot, and there's no reason for that.
Sounds of the shofar echo today, signaling the history still standing.
If we don't remember the past, then and do what we can to preserve it, when it's lost, there's nothing for us to pass on to our children.
Each person here has a sense of connection deep in their roots.
It really hit home because that's where my roots are. That's where my father and his siblings and parents worship. And that's part of who I am.
Part of one's identity lives on.
We're just taking away a sense of pride in our culture and our people.
For people here, it all means more.
This is part of your heritage. It should be remembered and should be respected.
Now, preserving these 2 buildings is a multi-million-dollar project for the Augusta Jewish Museum. Right now, they are in what they call Phase 1 and plan to fully open the museum portion this spring before moving on to Phase 2, which is fixing that synagogue. If you would like to donate or even take a tour of the museum, you can check out this story on our website.
All right, thanks for that, Sydney. Well, as we go through the next couple of days, we're actually going to get a chance to dry things out, but all that rain from today has actually caused a few flood warnings. Stevens Creek has that flood warning all the way through tomorrow evening. We'll talk more about the rain chances as we go through tonight, as well as some drier weather on the way for Monday and Tuesday coming up next.
Where we live is constantly growing, changing, evolving.
Have you seen Columbia County?
That's why our newscasts are evolving to fit your schedule.
Your days are always different, so your newscast should be too.
If it happens in our area, you'll see it first at 4.
And for the latest updates and breaking news, that's Live at 5. Then it's all new at 6 o'clock as we dig deeper into local stories, including investigations you'll only see by our IT.
No matter how you end your day, News 12 is on your side.
On your sideline, sports brought to you by the Hawk Law Group.
Well, anything can happen on any given Sunday or Saturday in the playoffs in January if you're Leningrad Jalen Watson.
It's hard to believe that just 3 years ago, Watson was working at Wendy's with his mom, that he was working towards making the perfect Baconator. Now he's serving up ices in the playoffs. A 7th-round rookie hauled in a one-handed interception, helping the Kansas City Chiefs advance to the AFC Championship.
Just a very resilient person. I always been working for what I had. I was never given anything, and I think that gave me an edge on the football field as well. So I just try to carry that edge, show some hunger, show some anger on the football field, and let it out on the opponents.
It is the second time this season the Leningrad has put on a showstopper. Back in September against the Chargers, Watson picked off Justin Herbert and returned it for 99 yards to the house. Watson will meet the Bengals and Grovetown native Deontay Smith in the AFC Championship, which will no longer be held in Atlanta. Heading to the NFC crown, the Eagles and Silver Bluff grad Taryn Jackson will take on the 49ers, while former Bulldog, current Cowboy DeMarcus Lawrence's playoff road has ended. Over in Columbia, Aaliyah Boston has a chance to become the program's all-time leader in career double-doubles. She's tied with Sheila Foster. She wastes no time either. Zaya Cook drives into the basket, quick bounce in the paint, and Boston sinks the first basket of the game. Good day for Cook, too. 2 deep threes early on in the first quarter. She finishes with a game-high 24 points. Not too many complaints about their gameplay, but the Gamecocks do record 11 turnovers. Arkansas's Michaela Daniels sinks the three here to make it a 2-point game, but that's as close as it gets. Camila Cardoso also a force, 12 points, 16 rebounds. But here's the moment. Field to Boston, dribbles the outside, puts it up, grabs her miss, recovers it one more time, and that'll do it. At 13 points and 10 rebounds, Aaliyah Boston posts a 73rd career double-double and becomes the program record holder. Boston finishes with 4 more rebounds to round things out, with Foster in attendance to witness the changing of the guard. The team shatters the program record for rebounds in a game at 74. There's one statue out of the CLA, but could Boston make it too?
It would be cool, but I mean, I just leave that up. But if we really think about it, like Asia was like she was that player. Like I think her presence is a big reason as to why all of us is here, and so that statue, it means something different. I think it means more than the stats that appear on the stat sheet.
The Gamecocks battle it out against the Crimson Tide next Sunday.
All right, thanks for that, Alyssa. Well, as we went through the day today, we actually got over 2 inches of rainfall, both in Augusta as well as in Aiken. Fortunately, as we go through the next 24 hours, we're going to get a good chance to dry things out. We'll have one more check of the forecast when we come back. But first, Chase and Neil with you guys.